Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody listening and watching wherever and whenever this podcast finds you. Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the Bitcoin Weekly Wrap-Up for the 2nd of January, 2020. Happy New Year's, everybody. This week's Roundup is once again brought to you by eToro. This is a very, very cool, innovative, safe, and secure platform. They existed prior to Bitcoin. They're not some brand new fly-by-night exchange. They have been around. They have a very good reputation, and they are, not just some, like I said, they're not fly-by-night. They're not brand new. They're not trying to see what works and what doesn't. They've been around and they've established themselves as being worthy of your trust. I wouldn't have them as a sponsor if I hadn't done my due diligence and felt safe as well as confident in recommending them to you, my listeners. It doesn't matter whether you are a beginner or an advanced trader. If you go there and you're brand new, you can use virtual trading portfolios where you can practice your trading with fake money on real order books. You can use copy trading, where you can just find actually really experienced and expert traders. You can allocate a portion of your portfolio, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100%, and you can allocate to as many traders as you'd wish, and whenever they make a trade, it copies it and they get a little bit of the profit off the top for taking advantage of their experience, but you get the full advantage of their experience and their knowledge without having done all the work to get there. If you're an experienced trader, like I just mentioned, there's copy trading. If you establish yourself in the community, they have basically a social media platform there as well of about 11 million traders. And if you establish yourself, you make a reputation for yourself. People begin to trust you, and then they begin to copy your trades. And then you get a little bit off the top. You can basically, instead of just having $100,000 in your own portfolio, you can have access and be able to skim profits off those same trades off a much, much larger portfolio of other traders who are copying your trades. So head over to didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro. That's didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro. If you use that, it's my affiliate link, but that lets them know that you came through me, which makes them happy, makes me happy. But once you deposit, I believe the minimum deposit is about $200, you will get $50 for free. So head on over there, sign up. Everybody wins at eToro. So welcome again to the beautiful By the Bay Basement Studios, joined as always by my 1995 Batman Forever McDonald's Riddler cup, filled today with water again, because I am just trying to be a little bit more healthier in the new year, and I love to live a cliche. Today we will be covering stories about John Mcafee, about Justin Sun and Greta Thunberg, IOTA, as well as Ripple, and of course, Craig Wright. But first, let's look at price real quick. Since last week's weekly wrap-up, price remained stable over the last 7 days, basically as we rolled into the new year, pretty much sitting around 7,200. But in the last 24 hours, that's on the 2nd of January, it's fallen again to sitting at 69.32 as of the 2nd of January, 2020. Today's first story is the most important one of the year, that of the world-renowned cybersecurity expert John Mcafee, and whether or not he will be forced to eat his own manhood. If you don't remember, the most serious price prediction in Bitcoin history occurred in June of 2017, where he said he would eat his own manhood on national television if Bitcoin was not worth $500,000 by the end of this year. Well, it's officially now the first few days of 2020, and as I just mentioned, the price is at $69.32, and it's going to need to rise by 13,800% over the next 363 days. That's around $1,357 a day. And actually, I did these calculations when it was at 72, so it's actually a little bit higher than that. But, I wish John all the best. I love him. There's nobody quite like him. If you don't follow him on Twitter, It's just it's a beautiful a train wreck of both genius and eccentricity. So I'd recommend following him if you enjoy things of that nature. The next story is about crypto's favorite little attention whore, I guess if you want to use that term, Justin Sun, who recently pledged $1 million to Greta Thunberg's climate change initiative. And just as a side note, I think it's terrible to use a child as a frontman for a cause, but it is insanely smart because in both politics and culture, the battles are rarely actually with the ideas themselves, but with the people that fight for them. And by using a child, they insulate themselves and make any attack on their positions, if made, or on that person as being petty and mean. You're attacking a child, for goodness sake. You know, it's insanely smart. I have to give it up to the handlers who created this, the Greta meme. They did a really stupendous job, and they are very much a credit to whatever marketing agency that they come from. So back to Justin, though. He's doing his normal thing. He's wowing people with his announcements and buying relevancy versus actually creating anything of value. Now, he made his bones in crypto by his big announcement after announcement after announcement after announcement that ended up really, more often than not, or pretty much 100% of the time, really being nothing of value. It was always a big announcement of a partnership that never turned out to be anything, or the partnerships, as usually goes on with crypto in any of these projects, like, oh, we're partnering with MasterCard. Oh, well, what they really mean is they went and they had a meeting with MasterCard. Blockchain's a buzz, so they basically assigned it to an intern and said, hey, look over this thing. If there's anything interesting, let us know. And that's usually what these things turn out to be. But then he actually kind of upped his game. He made a big splash last year by spending $4.6 million to win a lunch with Warren Buffett. Ultimately, this is actually yet to even happen. It got not canceled, but it got postponed and then postponed again. Justin has supposedly said he's rescheduling it, but this is already back in September, and 3 months later, still nothing. This is, just another example of Justin Sun using money he got from gullible investors and taking it, using it to make his own star shine just a little bit brighter. He released a statement, though, regarding this donation of $1 million that, quote, decentralized settlement and decentralized finance are completely run by computers, thus eliminating the need for ledger documentation and management records kept on paper, unquote. And then he went on to tout his proof of stake system as being more energy efficient than Bitcoin and everything like that. Now, it's unclear how he thinks that really, especially in the historical scheme of things, the relatively small amount of paperwork that's still left in the financial industry eliminating that is going to make any real difference in the actual global climate change crisis that he's seeing that needs to be tackled by this $1 million investment. And, don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but blockchain doesn't change the climate, and another spoiler alert, Justin doesn't care. He just wants headlines. So there you go. That's my take on Justin Sun and Greta. Let's now look at a story that doesn't involve either abused or spoiled children. IOTA experienced a software bug that shut down the network for over 15 hours. And IOTA it's kind of a goofy thing. It's been around for about 3 years now. It was touted as an Ethereum killer, and we've heard that before many times, as Ethereum was touted as a Bitcoin killer, most famously by the crypto genius. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he wanted like $2,000 to unlock all his secrets from the crypto genius, which, if you actually read all the stuff, it basically was just buy Ethereum, and this is why. And that's worked out really well for everybody who did follow that advice, right? IOTA's big claim to fame, though, is the Tangle, right? Instead of the blockchain, they have the Tangle, which they claim is more efficient, it's more scalable, and it is fee-free, right? Basically free to use. There's no fees. And it's something to connect the Internet of Things in the future. That's kind of like their big use case and what everybody who supports IOTA talks about. Now, the Tangle works very roughly by connecting each new transaction to 2 previous ones, creating basically a very small block. And this doesn't adjust the hash rate in the way that Bitcoin's consensus model does. And this brings up a big problem. With quote-unquote fee-free transactions, how does it defend against spam transactions on the network that would exponentially grow it, right? So with Bitcoin, if somebody's trying to spam the network, basically as blocks get full, fees go higher, and that disincentivizes people from doing it. There's other fixes for that, but we don't necessarily have to go into that. But it makes it, like I said, impossible to defend against spam transactions in IOTA, and because it's going to just make it grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it makes it impossible to grow the ledger, or to validate the ledger after if it just grows with these fee-free spam transactions, right? So this means that they would have to hard fork anytime there's a major change in the network hash rate to make it functional again. It's not a good thing. They also tout a quote-unquote, and their fix for this is their central coordinator as a solution to prevent spam attacks. This coordinator decides what is a spam transaction and what is not. And this really negates any really veil of decentralization within the system. It's not that built in, there's some sort of fee structure to help negate this. It's literally a central coordinator in a quote-unquote decentralized system. So let's just give a little bit of background on it. What happened on Sunday was what they call a minor bug. Not minor at all, but it was a bug where IOTA doesn't basically account for a transaction that is shared between 2 bundles. That meant that one bundle would mark it counted, while the second bundle was just completely ignored by the network. This caused the entire network to be completely unusable for about 15 hours. But it's currently back up as of this recording on the 2nd of January. Just think, though. They want to be the central hub for the Internet of Things in the future. If IOTA was actually being used, and like none of their marketing, none of their talk, anything, it's ever said, hey, we're still in experimentation phase. All their PR is, we're ready for business. We're doing a partnership with Jaguar. We're ready to go. If this was used, if this had actually reached some sort of mass adoption, right, over the last year or two, and was used by a large amount of companies and people, if they ran the Internet of Things, entire homes, offices, hospitals would have basically been rendered unusable. They call this a minor bug only because it is not being used for anything useful or for for anything that anybody cares about, right? It's just a small group of IOTA supporters that are going, hey, what's up, man? The network's not working. It's not mass pandemonium because every other hospital in the world is now offline because everything that was connecting them is down for 15 hours, right? If it was actually successful, this would have been catastrophic. So let's just hope it never is successful. Ripple is back in the news again recently, or I should say yesterday, on January 1st. They unlocked from the XRP escrow wallet another 1 billion tokens to be sold in the open market. Now, if you weren't around back in 2017, or if you just don't remember, back in December of 2017, Ripple placed 55 billion, yes, billion with a B, in escrow, 55 billion. It would release 1 billion XRP per month at the first of every month for the next 55 months. And we're almost halfway through this period. We're 24 months with 31 left to go. And this has been a great boon, a great windfall for the folks at Ripple, the company behind XRP. This often gets, they get very testy if you call the coin Ripple versus XRP or whatever. But the company, Ripple, the people who run it, the people who created it, the people who profit from it, all their head honchos have been doing very well with all of this. So David Schwartz, he is the CTO of Ripple, responded to criticisms that people, the criticisms of this continuing thing and the fact that it gets unlocked to them and then they sell it and then they get to keep the money. David Schwartz, like I said, the CTO of Ripple, responding to these criticisms, said that people who buy the XRP that they unlock are not giving Ripple, the company, money. Since they have been, venture capital angel invested, or angel funded since the very beginning, and that they're only selling negligible, the amount that they're getting in these sales is negligible amounts compared to the other funding that they've received. Problem is that's really far from the truth. Looking at their stats, you will see they have raised, and this I got from a tweet by Mike Dudas, and I'll link to it in the show notes, is that if you look at their stats, they've raised a total of $294 million in equity funding. But they've also raised $1.2 billion US dollars from XRP sales. That's far, far from negligible. And it's their largest profit center by many, many multiples. Ripple also claims to make money from the sale of software to banks. But when Larry Cermak of The Block asked, in the tweet, he commented and asked what percentage of their 2019 revenues came from the sales of XRP versus from the sale of this banking software that they're selling. David Schwartz responded by hiding behind the veil of corporate secrets, stating that they, don't disclose that information, that the decision's not his. Okay. He then attempted to compare their monthly sales, or at least this month's value of that 1 billion tokens of $192 million in XRP, he was trying to compare it to Bitcoin miners selling Bitcoin to cover their costs. Problem with that analogy is that miners have costs of production. They aren't given a monthly allowance that they created for themselves that goes straight to their pocket. And the other issue is that they are, like I said, they are selling to cover costs, right? They are selling because they have to. If they don't cover those costs, they go out of business. Schwartz, if you remember what I said just a few seconds ago, he stated specifically that they don't need the sales of XRP to fund themselves, right? They have all this banking software and angel investment, which leads you to believe of why do they even need to make the sales at all? Why don't they make the sales and donate it? Why don't they make the sales and without equity, create companies that support the XRP network? But they're not doing that. They are keeping the money for themselves. I don't know. Make your own decisions. And lastly, I can't let this weekly wrap-up go without... I don't have music queued up, but it would go something like bum, bum, bum. January 1st, 2020 came, and as of yet... let's go to a block explorer. Actually, I don't need to. Satoshi's coins are still there. If you remember, I do a lot of reporting on Craig, not because of the way that BSV say, people like, well, you guys talk about him more than we do. It's like, that is actually true. But that is because they are losing reasons to talk about him, for one. They've been, if you notice, there's been more and more distancing from Craig over the past 6 months, as I think a lot of them are starting to realize that, after the 15th promise that isn't kept, let's just take the last few months. The SegWit flaw was never exploited, even though he said that it would, and that there would be no Bitcoin BTC after 2019. There has, he made a price prediction of $1,200. They're currently sitting at, let's see if it's even listed, 92. right now, so it's slightly below 1,200. And also the biggest one that we have to talk about is the fact that the couriers are supposed to deliver, even though now the story is, well, I never said it was actually January, but multiple times in statements and in legal documents, it was January 1st, 2020. Now the story is, well, we never said it was going to be exactly in January. It might be, later on this year, or it might be another 2 years, but we're going to start meeting with the trustees and start to discuss how we're going to do all this. Well, there's a couple problems with this. Like I said, January 1st, 2020 was a date given before. And the idea that someone who has $8 billion or $6 to $8 billion in Bitcoin locked up can't remember the date he's supposed to get this stuff, can't remember any of the, can't have a coherent and consistent story, right? If I had $1 million, if I had $10,000 in Bitcoin, right? And that's just because I can't go into full billionaire mode like Craig can. If I had even a negligible amount of Bitcoin that was going to be released to me, I would know the date. I would know when I was going to get it. I would know how I was going to get it. And another thought that I expressed on Twitter today was that when you hire a bonded courier, the point of a bonded courier is this. A courier is somebody, so a courier can be somebody who delivers your Amazon packages, right? And you don't want just any Joe Schmo off the street grabbing Amazon packages from UPS or the U.S. Postal Service to deliver to your house, because what happens if he takes it? You really have no recourse. You could probably talk to Amazon, say I never got it, right, or whatever, and Amazon's good about refunding it. But, from Amazon packages to delivering jewelry. Let's say you own a jewelry store and you want somebody from another jewelry store wants to buy a $10,000 diamond necklace from you. Well, you're not going to stick that in the mail. What you do with high value stuff is you hire a bonded courier. And like I said, most couriers are technically supposed to be bonded. A lot of them really aren't, at least I found from my research. They'll say they are, and most people just take that at face value. But for something of high value, you are going to hire a bonded courier. And the bonded portion of it means they basically have insurance against theft. So let's say you send that necklace and it never arrives. Now you can go to that courier company, say, I didn't get it. And just like U.S. Postal Service insurance, you show that it was sent. You can show that it was never received. And they will then go and search their system, try to find it. And once they find that, if they find it, then they'll get it to you. If they don't, then that insurance will pay out. And it's basically an incentive by that company, or if it's just a sole individual doing the courier service, to not steal, because if they have too many insurance claims, they will start to get higher and higher premiums. It's a disincentive to do so. Or they'll just get dropped altogether and nobody will cover them, and then they'll lose their business. So it's a reason why you hire someone like that. So with something like this, they've talked about the bonded courier for the Tulip Trust. It's supposed to be, I believe, 5 separate documents containing shards of the Shamir secret key sharing scheme. When put together, this will unlock the encryption to the public and private keys that will allow him to move the Satoshi coins. The problem is that if you look in the original Tulip Trust document, you will see that it was $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. It has now since gone up in value. It was supposedly Dave was the one who signed, who did all this, all this stuff. And Craig has gone out of his way to say, well, and I believe it was in the court deposition. That may have been the first time, the court deposition from last year, June, I believe, where he said, well, yeah, Dave set up the bonded courier, but I specifically asked him, I didn't want to know where the courier was, so that there couldn't be any funny business, and I go and try to get it from the courier or whatever. Which that brings up, I'll digress slightly too, because all, the BSV people are saying, well, he doesn't even care. He's going to donate it all. Craig said he's going to donate it all to education in Africa or whatever. But the thing is, like, if you didn't care, like his whole thing was like, I wanted to destroy it, but then Dave stopped me. It's like, okay, so if he's holding on to it for you to get at a later date, you obviously care enough to agree with them not to destroy it. So why do you need to have it hid from you? Like, knowing who the bonded courier is a very important piece of information. The idea that it's not in these trust documents is insane. That you have an unknown courier who's just going to show up or not, right, with this value in Bitcoin. Problem is that when you hire a bond insurance, so let's use instead of Bitcoin, let's just say it was Dave and Craig had created a necklace that was worth $100,000. And you would put it in, and you would get this bonded courier to take the package and say it's going to be delivered on January 1st of 2020, or, and this is also an important note, 15 months after Dave's death, if that occurs, which would have put the time that courier should have delivered it in July of 2014, but that's beside the point. And you put it away. Well, let's just say in the meantime, there's a diamond shortage. Or let's just say some terrorist attack blows up 30% of the world's diamond mines. And then that diamond necklace goes from $100,000 to $100 million. And now you have $100 million thing that's being held by these bonded couriers, with insurance only covering $100,000. They don't adjust, right? Because just like U.S. Postal Service insurance, if you have a package that's worth $1 million and you only insure it for $100,000 and it gets lost, you don't get to go and say, oh, well, I it was worth $1 million, so I want that now. You only get insured. You only get paid out for what the premium and the insurance amount you agreed upon at the point of sale. Now, more than likely, these companies would be willing to increase the coverage or decrease it while they're holding it over time, based on the value fluctuations of that, or if there's sudden decrease or increase in value, depending on what the client wanted. But this would require an increase in the cost of holding that, because the premium for that amount of insurance, especially $6 to $8 billion, would be astronomical. So there's a couple things that I don't believe any of this, but let's just push the I believe button. If Craig is right, this means that for the past almost 7 years now, I think it'll be in April, I think is when it was signed, so it'll be like 7 years in April. For the past 7 years, they've been entrusting the encryption that would unlock the keys to $8 billion in value, only insured by a $100,000 policy. Or someone who has a lot of money knows who this bonded courier is, which means that he's a liar. Now, both of them, he is a liar. That's been proven in court. But more than likely, it's also not saying more than likely, it's absolutely BS. The idea that you would trust that is just absolutely ignorant. That you would allow that amount of money to be held. That, and the fact that you are going to allow some rando people to be sitting on $8 billion worth and just let it sit there, when according to the own trust documents, he could get it now. He could have gotten it any time, right? So, anyways, the bonded courier has not shown up as of the 2nd of January. It's never going to show up. Like I said in a previous wrap-up, the most likely scenario is going to be some sort of Dave fucked it up. He didn't pay this, and the couriers disposed of it. The bonded couriers went out of business, or Dave fucked up the encryption anyways, or they keep on talking about IOTA overwriting these hard drives. The file that would unlock this is in there, right? There's going to be some excuse. But I couldn't let this week's wrap-up go without mentioning, my favorite little piggy, Mr. Craig Wright. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Bitcoin Weekly Wrap-Up. Please head over to digitalcrypto.com/eToro. Help support my sponsors. Please subscribe. Leave a review on iTunes. If you're in YouTube, I'll get this right one of these days, guys, on YouTube. Go over here, hit the red subscribe button. If you're on mobile, it'll be a little bit lower in the gray area right above the show notes. Hit that notification button as well. The little bell lets you know every time I upload a video. And, I already said to show love to my sponsors, so I don't need to do that. But I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you guys for watching. The listener numbers have been steadily increasing, not by a lot, but it's little bits, so that's good. I'd really ask that you share. I'd really ask that you engage as well. I want to hear from more of you. The numbers I'm seeing of people listening, I want to hear from more of you guys. So reach out. Let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. I'm a big boy, and I need to hear constructive criticisms. So let me know. Won't promise that I'll do what you've asked or said that I should do, but I will absolutely listen and take that into account. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and have a great night.